I just picked up this 1978 Honda CB400, a true barn find. This was driven for 2 years, from 1978 till 1980, by the original owner, whose brother I just bought it off, and then put in the barn since 1980, which is, what is that, 38 years? Something like that? I don't know, I didn't do the math. It has 5,524 original kilometers, which is about 3,000 miles. Everything on it is original and stock, including the tires. The seat is perfect. There's no rips, no tears, no scratches. The gas tank, the side covers, everything is here. I have the owner's manual. I have the original key, everything. Absolute barn find. The exhaust is not rotted through. The only rust on it is on the center box. That was always rusted anyway, and a little bit of rust and pitting on the little chrome strip that covers the two where the front and the rear pipe meet. But we'll be going over this and getting it going for the first time since 1980, which is, let's do the math now, 44 years. Yes, 44 years. So it's a 46-year-old bike that hasn't moved in 44 years. Unbelievable. I've never seen one so complete. And I've done a lot of barn finds. I found a lot of them, but I've never seen one in this unmolested, untouched shape. Unreal. Anyway, we'll be doing some more on this. Okay, so let's take a look under this seat and see what's under there. First time after 40 some odd years. Tank lock. It's got this little clip that you never see that goes through the helmet lock. It keeps the seat from coming up and down. Oh, it does work. Pop. So that's out. And then it had a CB3 400 before. One, should be two little latches. Two. Oops. Where the heck is it? There should be another latch on the other side. They're just down under here. They're little pull latches. Well, there it is. So the seat can come off. No, it can't because of the... I'm sure these haven't been out in 40 some odd years either. Let's hope this comes off. It does. There's the original chrome. Wow. So now that should pop off. I don't think the owner's manual is still going to be in there because I have the owner's manual. But what is in there? Oh, insurance. My God. That's where the owner's manual would have gone. Original toolkit is still here. Never been touched. Wow. All of it is still there. Unreal. You never ever find this. This is just crazy. And they're not going to go back in this bag. No way. Let's get some air and blow that out because it looks like some friends have been under there. No. Save that original sticker. Oh yeah, someone was living in there. Unless that's the original filter, that could be. I think that's filter material. Let's put some lubricant on these screws. We have a good chance of taking them out, and I'll get some GIS screwdrivers and back in a sec. For the people that don't know, GIS is, I believe it stands for Japanese Industrial Standard, but it's a slightly different Phillips that was used on Japanese motorcycles. And if you don't use one, you will wreck the Phillips screws if they're hard to get out. I'm just going to clean out the... And you can order them on Amazon or eBay or wherever. Actually, the toolkit one would be GIS, I guess. Turn it too hard. I don't believe these have ever been off. I'm doubting they even got to the first real service on this bike. I'm sure they did an oil change, but I doubt they got around to changing filters. That's 2 out of 3. What are the chances we get all 3? Can't. Doesn't work that way. One is always the bad guy. No. That's going to be the bad guy. Let me grab a pair of vice grips so I can take that out with vice grips instead of wrecking the screw. Okay, so I've got a slightly larger GIS Phillips, and I'm just going to use a pair of vice grips on the head of the bolt to help turn it. There we go. No need to wreck anything. So what do you think, mouse house or filter? Write it in the comments. I think it's filter. Mouse house. Yikes. Actually, it's mouse house and filter, but mostly it's Mises. Let's blow that out of there. Close your eyes. Now the good thing is they couldn't get through this and make a nest in the intake manifold or in the inside the engine. Seen that before. Go in all the way past a valve and boom. Let's get more of this crap out of here. Wait for that compressor to shut off and then come back. I re-glued that original decal down with some contact cement. So let's looky. Oh, I think I need a pick to get that out. In here. I don't know if this is part of the filter element or not, or if this is a screen after the filter, so I want to be careful with that. Oh, it's good in there. No. Okay, so before we were interrupted, here's the inside the air box, which is, well, clean other than dusty from the crap that I just blew in there. And I don't know if this is just a screen or part of the filter. I think it's a screen and the filter goes on top. Not 100% sure on this bike, because the last one I had didn't have the original on it. But we're all good. So next thing, we're going to take these spark plugs out and dump some deep creep down the cylinders. Let it sit in there for a little while, and anyway, back in a sec when we take those plugs out, we'll take a look at them. Oh, and we're going to drain. I've already pulled the gas cap off. Wow, it stinks. Thank God the fuel petcock's been off since it's been parked, but that fuel in there, we're going to drain out of the tank and take a look at that too. This is an old Honda, so it should be an 18 mil. Yes, it is. I did put some deep creep on the plugs last night before I let it sit, so I wouldn't be taking half the cylinder head off with a 44-year-old plug coming out. Long plug. Look at it. There's about half an inch of thread coming out already. And there she be. That's a little bit rusty. I'm not liking that. That's not that bad. But there could still be water down there. So I'm going to deep creep that so that I can get into the piston rings. Well, my deep creep nozzle had a crack in it. That's not good. This stuff's not cheap. So I'm going to fill that and let that sit. What is this? DR8ES. Not even. That's a small plug. Why is it so deep? It's got to be the stock plug, considering it's got 5,000 kilometers on it. They never replaced it. Huh. It looks small. Maybe because I haven't been working on Hondas for a while. Anyway, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side and we'll be back. Okay, so I've got this plug out, and we'll put some more deep creep in. And with the other plug just a couple threads in, there shouldn't be too much compression. I should be able to kick it over by hand. Nice. You can actually hear compression. You can hear that. So this thing's going to run. Well, before we even... might as well check spark while I can crank this over by hand. Key, what did I do with the key? Let's just see if we can see spark. There's no battery in it. Let's put you up here so you can see. There's no battery in it, and I don't know if it needs a battery to complete the circuit. Some do, some don't. I don't know if that's a good enough ground. Just touching there. You know what? Let me grab some alligator clips. Back 1 second. Red and red. So we should see spark. We have spark. I'm not seeing it. I don't see anything. That switch is on. Okay, let's check this. Battery. How do you pop off? You just pop out, don't you? I don't want to break anything. There we go. It's freaking freezing out today. Not the greatest day to do this. I got a positive and a negative. This is not an electric start bike. This is a kick start only. The CB400 was the Series 1 and Series 2, I think. One had a kickstart, one had electric start and a kickstart. This one is the kicky only. So, let's put an old crappy battery on there and see what happens. Okay, so just got this old dead 12-volt battery sitting in there. I don't remember where it's from, but sometimes a battery just needs to be in line as a fusible link in order to work. So let's see if we get any spark there. I just may not be seeing it. Don't see any spark. Am I on? Maybe I'm on, not on. I see nothing. Let me get a multimeter and throw it in there because this spark plug just could be crap. Let me just throw a multimeter in there, we'll see. Okay, so I've got another spark plug. It doesn't matter what it's from, we just need to see if this system is making a spark. I mean, the points could be screwed up from sitting forever, which is very, very possible, and very, very likely. I don't see any spark. So we're gonna move on to, well, let me try this. Just grounding it a little bit more with the alligator clip. Groundy. I don't hear or C-Spark. Okay, more than likely the points, so that would be this side of the bike. Are we going to do this today or not? I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get to this today because it is going to rain any minute. Probably not. Anyway, I'll let you know if we're going to... I'm going to put some more oil down those cylinders for when we're kicking it over by hand, and we'll get to draining this fuel first. I'm going to put a little synthetic oil down the bores and just let that sit there until I've investigated. The plugs are just there to keep it from anything else from falling in there. Just put them in a thread or two. You're not going to get all that compression to be able to kick it over by hand, as long as you just put them on hand tight, like finger tight, a couple of threads, 1 or 2 threads, just to block the hole. Okay, so first we need a 10 mil to take the shifter off. It's bolted on the bottom. Need a wrench. That was easy. It might actually snow here today. It's just crap. Almost the end of April. That is snow blowing down. We got a whole bunch of 8 mil bolts. Yes, that is snow coming down. Jesus Lord. Hopefully these are all the same size. I believe they are. And all the bolts are like new. Ridiculous. Where's the last one? Under here. Where'd you guys go? Okay, come on. I'll try to knock you over again. I believe that is it. And what we got inside. Down here so you can see what I'm seeing. Can we see points through here? We can. It's like freaking brand new in here. It's unreal. Wow. So my assumption is that the points are probably crapped out. Let's get a flashlight. Okay, well, it's starting to snow. I'm not dealing with this anymore today. I'm not sitting out here in the freaking cold. I got no room in my garage because I've got stuff. So anyway, It's the middle of April. It shouldn't be snowing, but I'm too cold to do this today. So we're gonna finish up tomorrow. I'm just gonna put the airbox cover back on, put everything back up and get it safe from the weather, and we'll continue tomorrow. Okay, so we pulled off the stator side cover, which is a bunch of 8mm bolts. I think there's 5 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and get to the flywheel here so I can turn this with a drill so I can see better if there's spark. Kicking it over by hand, you know, a 400cc bike, it just might not be, you know, enough to show a spark. Plus we were in bright sunlight yesterday. So let's try this again. Again, use a drill, not an impact. An impact will take the bolt off. A drill in reverse will not. It's just going to spin it, as long as you've got a strong enough drill. Oh, it looks like we got spark. Oops. See that? I don't know if you can see that or not. No, you probably can't. Let's try and get this in the dark somewhere. I don't know if you can see that. We do have spark though. Let's see if I can get it down here. So that's the other side, the other cylinder. And let's try, oh no, that's this cylinder. Now let's try the other cylinder. I pulled that one out. And that one doesn't want to spark. Now it should. This is a twin spark, wasted spark system. Both these plugs should fire at the exact same time. It could be the plug wire itself. Couldn't be the coil, because the coil fires, again, both plugs at the same time. Let's try this here. I'm gonna get shocked. Huh. Let me try a brand new spark plug. Or let me try this spark plug. Go away. Don't go near me. Don't spark on me. Can you guys see that? Hopefully you can. Ooh. Yeah. Let's try that again. Nothing out of there. So this side's sparking, and the other side is not. That was the side we were checking yesterday, because that's the side we could kick it with our hand. So the only thing it could be, because like I said, the spark, it's a wasted spark system, meaning both spark plugs are always firing at the exact same time. This one will be at bottom dead center when it sparks, when this one is at top dead center. So they're always switching around. You know, this one's firing and this one's firing, but this one's at bottom dead center, this one's at top dead center, and then they switch around. Huh. Okay, let's see if we can check the wire. Okay, so we're going to drain the fuel out using a pick, and with these little twisty clamps, you can stick the pick through the 2 loops and move them, because usually they're not very tight after many years. But the pick through the loops can force them apart, and you can pull it up. It's not working on this one. Come on. I'm sorry, I'm probably in your way. Come on. Off. There we go. Use the pick to unstick it from the inlet, unstick the hose. And a little gentle twist, it should come off. Let's hope. And let's get a fuel can under here. See if anything comes out. Oh, that petcock won't even turn. Nothing in the on position. Nothing in the reserve position because it's probably blocked as hell. Okay. Let's turn it off and we'll take the gas out once we get the tank off, which is this. Looks like a 14 or 13 millimeter bolt. Pull that off. Tank comes right out. Actually a 12 mil bolt. There's a washer and then a bushing. There it is underneath the rubber. So this tank should just lift off at the back. We've already unhooked the fuel line, so we just lift it off and slide it back. And sounds full to me. Yikes. I'll find something to dump that into. Ooh, well, immediately looking here, the coil wire boots, look at those, from sitting. They don't look that friendly, do they? Yeah, neither one looks very good. It's grounded properly. And nothing's ever been touched on this bike, which is good, because you don't want to have to undo things other people have done. Okay, I'm gonna dump that tank out and we'll be back in a second. I've got to find something to dump it into. Just gonna blow everything off while we're... Oh, I think mouse house in the frame as well. Put those two spark plugs back in and then I'll blow the rest of this off and blow the rest of the mouse house to kingdom come. Okay, so where were we? Being dumb. I was thinking I'm going over an old Honda manual that I've got in the garage, and I went, wait a minute. Lost spark system. You can't test one plug at a time. You got to test both at the exact same time. Both have to be grounded. So when I touch both together, so when I was testing it the first time and then I lost spark, the first time the one plug was still slightly like one thread into the spark plug hole on that side. So now I will touch these two. I'm going to shock myself, but that's okay. It's happened before. We have spark. Not a great one because the battery's not hooked up, but we got spark. So now I've got the gas tank out and being, I think we already went over that. I've got it full of the rust, what do you call it? The fuel tank rust treatment, evapor rust. Brain fart. I just got it sitting upside down because most of the tank was full of crappy old gas, so under there it didn't rust, just on the very top of the saddle. I'm just taking it and shaking it around once in a while. It's not bad. It's pretty good, but I'm just going to get rid of anything that's in there anyway. That's why I've got it sitting upside down, because it's just the top of the tank from moisture sitting in there over the years. The bottom that had gas is not a problem. I'm sitting it in a flower bed because I don't, because I'm just an idiot. Anyway, we've got spark. So what I'm going to do now is I don't want to take, these two carbs are sistered together. Their fuel systems are sistered together. I don't think there's going to be a problem because that petcock was not open. Nothing was flowing through it. I am going to put a bit of seafoam down into the carb float bowl. The float bowls are connected. They're sistered together, like I said. So the float bowl, you can drain both individually, but the fuel only goes in this side, so it goes in and across. And when you pull that apart, it's just a pain in the butt to balance everything back together. If I'm lucky, these carbs have not had fuel in them. Considering how this guy treated the bike, I think he probably drained these carbs. So, seafoam I'm gonna fill the float bowls with seafoam and crank it a couple of times to suck some fuel in. I'll put the choke on and it will suck a bit of fuel in and over across the needles, and then I'll leave it overnight to hopefully do its magic. Back in a sec. Okay, so I've got some seafoam in a squirty bottle, and I put the fuel hose back on, and we're just gonna fill the float bowls with seafoam. This will probably take a few minutes. As this comes out of these little bottles, one drip at a time. You know what, let's take the little tippity tip off and let her feed. That'll be it for the day. I'm just gonna, like I said, I'm gonna leave the seafoam in there, in the float bowls, and I'll show you what I'm gonna actually, where are you dripping? You're not dripping there. No, you're dripping down the side. I'm gonna pull the choke on, and with the choke on, cranking over the engine with the drill, it'll suck some of the seafoam up into the it should suck it through the carburetors. Okay, and there she will stay for a night. Well, it sits there and does its seafoamy magic. I've done this before with quad carb bikes because I don't want to take 4 carbs apart and rebuild them. And this one, with such low kilometers or such low mileage on it, should not need rebuilding. It's probably just a little bit of gum in there, and the seafoam will just work it out. Just pure seafoam in there, no gasoline whatsoever. And we'll let it sit, and next time we will drain it out of the float bowls and see how nasty it is. If it's nasty, we'll have to take the carbs off. But these manifolds, I mean, the rubber from 44 years, it's going to be stiff as a rock. You can use a heat gun to soften them, but if I don't have to, I don't have to. I'm going to see if I don't have to, and if I don't, fingers crossed, we will get lucky. Anyway, next time we're going to try and start this bike. We'll pour a bit of gas down there and give her a shot and see what happens. Anyway, for now, we're done for the day, so stay tuned. Here's that seat about 3 hours later. Foaming tire cleaner. It's got silicone and everything in it. It works beautifully on vinyl and plastic and rubber. Okay, not sure where we left off a couple of days ago, but I haven't been able to touch it since. I've been working. So we've rolled it back out. Rolling it out made one of those float bowls leak a little bit. Again, we're making every attempt to not pull the carbs off. Because again, this bike was shut off with no fuel in it. And we've run seafoam through it, and if I have to pull them off, I'll pull them off. I just don't want to. Oops. I've got fuel, a little fuel bottle going into the fuel line. I put new plugs in. I got new plugs the other day, put them in, don't have a filter yet. Oh, one more thing I did before. Again, we've cranked it over with the drill a few times to make sure we've lubed the cylinders once we put oil in there. And I'm going to pull off a cylinder head nut. I think, yes, we can. So you can see down inside the cylinder head there, that's where the valves and the camshaft are. And if this thing starts, there won't, even though we've been spinning the engine with the kick-starting it over and stuff with oil inside the cylinders, it won't be enough to pump oil up here. So let's squirting past that little post, the little threaded post that the bolt threads onto. We can get some oil up into the upper cylinder head. Okay. And let's attempt to kick this thing over. Choke on or off? Well, choke's still on, so I'm going to leave the choke on. No throttle. Keys on. Keys on. I won't give it any throttle. No freaking way. It semi-fired. You heard that, right? I'm not just screaming. Wow. Gotta love old Hondas. I give it a little throttle. Let's unchoke it. I've got a quick start here, but I don't think I need it. Okay. 400 cc's is not fun to kick over. So we're going to use some starting fluid. I'm going to hold the throttle wide open. Wow. Okay, choke's back on, and let's do the same thing. Hopefully it'll stay running and start drawing fuel through the carbs. She's running. Doesn't like me to give it any throttle yet, but it is sucking fuel and carb cleaner through the carbs. Oh my God. Trying feathering the throttle. It's going to die on me, but hey, it's running, so it is sucking fuel through the carbs. Hopefully that cleaner is getting past the needles. The seafoam will do that. It'll clean it up. So now that we've got seafoam in the carb and probably in contact with the needles, no freaking way. we gotta try that again. See if we can do it without quick start this time. Take the choke off a tiny bit. Almost. Oh. Well, it's not going to want to initially start without a bit of help. Oh, better give it full choke. I'm too old to be kick-starting a 400. Come on, baby. Ow. Whew. That hurt. Yeah. Oh, the kickstart caught my pant leg, yanked my foot up. Yeah, whatever. Oh. Okay. I'm gonna let my ankle recover from that and be back in a minute. Okay, I've restarted it, had it running for like 2 minutes each time. It does seem to, it seems the idle circuit is working. It's running on idle, but only fully choked. So the carb is still a little bit iffy. I carbs, and I do not, again, want to pull them out if I don't have to. So I've seafoamed them again, allowed some more seafoam to drain in, suck in, and we're going to let it sit overnight and see what happens. I've got other stuff to finish doing today anyway, so no point in rushing. Again, pulling those two carbs off is guaranteeing myself 3-4 hours of work. To pull them off, pull them apart, check everything. If I can just run some cleaner through them and they'll start working, which I've had done many times before, then I'm more than happy to do that. I'm in no rush to finish this. Anyway, thanks. You'll be seeing me again tomorrow, so I won't even say thanks for watching because you're coming back. Okay, well, other things happened in the last week and a half. I have left this bike with the fuel in it, threw the fuel tank back on and hooked the tank back up so I could get gas in it and just to get it out of the way. And the fuel has sat in it. Kicked it over once, it did start and ran for, I don't know, a few minutes on choke. Turned it off again, and I also pulled off the front and rear crash bars and the sissy bar and stuff just because they were in the way back, trying to back it in the garage. I don't have a hell of a lot of room. Other than that, put a new air filter in and a battery, and it's just been, again, sitting with the cleaner and the gas, and we're gonna see if we can start it. Choke. High idle to the choke. We got a leak. We have leakage. Damn. The carburetor float bowl, the float pin is not sealing. I may actually have to pull those carbs off. We'll see. Okay, well, that float bowl, one of the two is still leaking. I haven't even checked the hose. It doesn't matter if one's leaking. I got to take both carbs off anyway. Hoping this cleaner running through it will stop it, but it is running a hell of a lot better than it was a week and a half ago. Check the air fuel mixtures. Those that's not going to cause the fuel leak. That is definitely a stuck float. Well, let's see if we can find out which one it is. There's two drain hoses, one off of each carb float bowl. I'm going to find out which one's the one dripping. It's the far one, so it's on the left side. It's this one that's dripping. Now it could be because the bike, this model did not come with a center stand, so let's pull it over straight up and down and see if the dripping goes away. Oh no, it just gets worse. So yeah, that's a shame because everything else is fine. It's not even choked anymore, and it's running fine. That popping is just probably the air fuel mixture needs to be changed. I'm going to try something else though. I'm going to shut this fuel off. Now the smoke you're seeing is just some degreaser that I sprayed on the engine as well. While it was sitting, I just let it sit on there. I haven't really rinsed it off or anything. And probably assorted mouse pee. Yeah, it's a little poppy. It's not side seems to be running leaner than the other side, a lot hotter than the other side. You see the color of the pipe? We can test that with a digital thermometer. Fuel back on. Harder to do when you can't find your digital thermometer, so we'll do it by... Ow! That was a knuckle. Boom. Doesn't really feel that much different side to side. Now, I'm going to let this run for a few more minutes and see if anything clears out in there. I don't think it's going to. Okay, so the engine's off. It's cooled down for about, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds, but I turned the petcock off to run most of the gas out of the float bowls. Not all of it, though. And this stuff is made by Kent Automotive. It's intake system cleaner. This stuff just evaporates intake deposits and stuff. I mean, gone, gone, gone. So... if you don't know how a carburetor works, there's a little float, one on each side with a little rubber pin on it. And when the fuel gets to a certain level, the rubber pin pushes up against where the fuel comes in and stops the flow. And if that's gummed up, it's not going to stop the flow. So I'm going to put some of this straight into that, where that little float pin is. This will go right on top of the float pin. And now that it's just injected straight in, it's just going to sit on top. So it'll sit on top of that rubber float pin, and hopefully if there's any deposits, which there were quite a few in the petcock. I got the petcock working again because the one I ordered off of Amazon was the wrong size. And the petcock was gummed up as all hell, but I mean, I got all the gum out of the petcock and it now works perfectly. But I'm gonna leave that sitting in there for a couple hours. And one of the things I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take anything that's got black paint on it that's rusty, like the foot pegs that have been sitting down and out. I'm just gonna pull those up and touch those off. But anything chrome, I'll show you. You can use really fine steel wool to clean chrome, but where we got a spot where I can do this. Okay, up on the fork tube there, the fork leg has to be brass. A brass cheek poker that you stick inside of your drill. Brass, not steel, not stainless, brass. That will take all of that rust off of there that was around there. I don't know if you can see that very well. Let's go. Let's even get you closer to a part that I can do here too on the fender. Right there. So you can see the little rust pitting and stuff there. Now the big stuff it's not going to get rid of, but the little pin size stuff is just going to be gone. I want to make sure I don't hit the fork leg because that's covered in clear coat. But you can do that in any of the rusty surfaces on the bike. And while I'm waiting for this fuel system cleaner to do its magic, now you see spots like this that are pretty corroded. There's nothing you're gonna do about that except polish this off and then put some the rust converter that will convert this into black paintable surface. We're not gonna paint it, we're just gonna keep this from getting worse. I've already got this bike sold. I found someone who already wants it. They just heard that I had one and he said, don't restore it. I said, no, I don't intend to. It's a survivor. Said there's one or two spots I will touch up and I'll take the rust off. But this bike is exactly as it was when it was parked 40 something years ago. Now here's another spot we can look at on the rim. Again, this doesn't bring it back to new, it just gets off the majority of that rust. The little pinholes and little pin spots. The big spots you can't do anything with unless you re-chrome it. Again, right there. You can see that. It's got to be brass, and it's because it's softer than the metal. If you use a metal one, it will scratch the living crap out of it. You can use it on the exhaust. You can use it on anything chrome, and not plastic chrome. This is that plastic? I believe these are still metal back then. The turn signals. So any slight discoloration in that from rusting, which it doesn't appear to have any. And be careful of rubber because it will take rubber off. But yeah, any of the other stuff you can get to, and these things get in between. Springs, you can take the shock all the way off if you want to get it, but again, we're not making a perfect bike. This guy doesn't want it perfect. He wants it to look like it did when it was parked 40 something years ago. So that's what we're gonna do for him. Anyway, we're gonna cross the fingers, work on some other stuff, and hopefully that fuel intake cleaner will clean the gum off of that float pin. Okay, I've got most of the chrome polished. It's a crappy day, so I'm trying to keep indoors a little bit. You're not really able to see too much. I don't have the seat back on. They're just sitting there to stay out of the way. I had to order a carb kit, which I have for that leaking petcock. So we'll probably do that tomorrow. But I've got to replace the boots, the shock absorber boots. So it means I have to take the fork legs off. If I'm taking the fork legs off, I might as well polish. The main fork legs here, they're aluminum, and then they're coated in a clear coat, and they get pretty crappy looking. So I wasn't going to completely fully restore this thing, but I am going to polish those and recoat them. And it's just 4 bolts, 4 10mm bolts right here for the 2 on each side to hold the fender on, pop the fender off, and then unhook the speedometer cable and the front brake cable. Looks like a 12 and a 14. Yeah, a 12 and a 14. Pop the cable out, unscrew the speedometer cable. Oh no, there's a little Phillips head screw that'll hold the cable in, and then you can pull them out through the plastic cable keeper here on the fender. And it's better to do that because you can never get these plastic cable keepers. You can't get them out of the fender without breaking them. There's a little lip, a rubber lip on the inside. I guess it was pliable when they're brand new, but they sure as hell aren't not anymore. So yeah, pull those 2 cables off, slide them back up through the keeper. I can pull the fender off, and I guess it's easier to get this rust with the brass brush too once those are off. And then remove the fork legs, and I'll show you that once I get all that off. And you'll have to get the bike up on a stand too, so I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so we're going to pull the front tire and the front forks off. And this is a bike without a center stand, so you're wondering, well, how the hell do I get a wheel off of a bike without a center stand? Piece of plywood about 1 inch, or anything about 1 inch tall, underneath the kickstand. Other side, take a floor jack or car jack. I always use hockey pucks. And you're going to want to jack it up from in front, as far forward as you can, and on the opposite side of the jack, or the kickstand. Not too high, just a little bit, and wheel off ground. So now we can take this sucker off. Oh, we got to take the cotter pin out of there. Again, we've already removed the cables. I think we did that the last time. And we're going to pull these forks all the way off. So forks, there's pinch bolts at the front. There will be these 2, looks like a 12 and a 12, these 2 here. And then there are the 2 top fork nuts here, which will take the fork off. But first we're going to take the wheel off. And there will be 2 pinch bolts on this side for the axle, and the axle nut on this side, which looks like a 19. And this cotter pin's got to come out. Okay, so the 19, oops. Bolt and washer, oops, boo. I already took the 14s off of there. That's what those washers are on the ground. But I had to pinch the axle to hold the, pull it from spinning while I took the 19 mil off the other side. See the little arrow on there? Showing forward. So that goes forward when you put it on again. So let's collect all our little bits. 2 lock washers, 2 washers, 2 nuts. And I think I can just tap the axle out. Hold on a second. Okay, axle's looking really good for 40 years old. And oh crap, yeah, there's a stay on the front brake because they're double double acting brakes on this thing because it's front drum. And most drums just have one pull. This one's got a pull with another one on it. And then there's a little stay here that's located to the lower fork. That looks like a 10 or a 12. I'll take that off. It's just that nut right there. And that whole wheel will come off. Actually, I'll zoom in on it because my last bike didn't have the dual front lever actuators on it. Where are we? Let's zoom you in. This nut is the same on the top, and they both got little metal tabs to keep them from spinning off. So these little metal tabs have to be bent back or else you can't get the wrench on there. So I'll bend those back with a screwdriver and we'll be back. Oops. Now, is this a 12 or a 13? Of course it's a 12, because I have a 13. And the reason we're doing this one on the drum is because getting back here and bending the tabs out is going to be harder with the wheel on. So once the wheel's off, see the little keeper here? It holds it in the hole. It's also good because we can polish all this up too with the brass brush. It's a bit of an odd setup. A lot of times drums just have a pin in them, so the drum slots into the bottom pin to keep it from rotating. That's what this is doing. It's keeping it from moving when you hit the brakes. But usually a drum is slotted into the bottom of the swing arm, or the shock absorber, the front shock. Either way, it's an awful long bolt. Is this something other than what I think it is? This might be doing something completely different than what I think it's doing. Is this like some kind of anti-dive thing? I don't know. I honestly don't. I don't know why this bolt is so long if it's just a keeper. Okay. Now I can pull that wheel off and hopefully the bike doesn't fall over. Bingo. Okay. Are you going to stay upright on your own? Yes, you are. $1978. Can you believe it? Still looks like that inside. So what does that bolt to? It doesn't, nothing crazy. It's just a long bolt to keep, I guess, because there's a lot of torque on it. So now you can see the one inside right here. That was the same thing, so we'll have to tap those and take that off. Or we can do it once we get the actual front shocks off. Maybe we'll do it once they're off. It's just going to be easier. I don't want to tap on it while it's sitting on this precarious standing situation. All right, be back. Okay, to get a socket on these top bolts, I think I'm going to have to take the handlebars off. 12 mil bolts, 4 of them. should be. Sometimes there's a little arrow pointing forward on these, sometimes there's not, on the pinch bolts again for the handlebar. But I'm not going to take it all the way off. I'm just going to lay it on top of the bike. So I'll throw something on top of there so it doesn't scratch anything, take the bolts off and lay it over. The choke is pinched on by one of these bottom bolts. That's not going to stay there. What am I thinking? All right, should be able to reach those bolts now. Figure out the size of that top nut and be back. Okay, these top bolts are a 27. And these hold up the headlight. So these buckets here just slide around the fork leg. So there we go. Now they're probably still slightly pinched in by the pinch bolt down here. What is my tripod? Oh, I know, because I stepped on it and broke it. That's why you're doing the lean. Oh my God. Okay. So right here, where the pinch bolt is, flathead screwdriver. I'm gonna pry it the slightest little bit. I'll allow the shock to come down. Finish taking off the top bolt. I live out in the country. Why is there a damn street sweeper on my street? Honestly. I'm going to put the bolt back in because it's got a seal on it to keep the oil in. We'll check the oil later on. But for now, we don't want it coming out. There we go. Front fork. And front fork. That's what the inside looks like if you care. And now it's just going to be a matter of, well, you're leaning even more. Yeah, I got to fix this tripod and start cleaning these. Okay, so I'm just going to be wire brushing and sanding the fork legs, not the chrome tops. You don't sand those, you just clean them off, wipe them down. But the fork legs themselves, they're aluminum. Like I said, there's a clear coat on them, which crap gets under over time, and it starts to kind of delaminate and come off. So with the wire brush, the brass wire brush, again, brass, that stuff, all that corrosion can be taken off, and then sanded down with, I think, 320. I'm probably going to try 320 and see what that looks like. Okay, on the left, that's about 15 minutes of sanding, 320 grit followed by 800 grit wet and dry. Look at the right, it's just terrible compared to it. Zoom a little bit if you can. Oh, other way to zoom, isn't it? I don't know if I'm going to clear coat them or not. Let's see if I have any aluminum rim clear coat. I'd hate to get bubbles and then have to sand it off.
again, the risk of over restoring a bike that has patina and is old is pretty great. And I don't want, I mean, this is bad. This old one is bad. This looks better. I think just leaving it as it is pretty good. Let me see if I have a aluminum clear coat, like the stuff you would use on aluminum wheels. Let me see if I've got some of that. Okay, I couldn't find any aluminum for aluminum wheels, but I'm using some Rust-Oleum. It's a semi-gloss, so I'm just going to do a couple of quick light coats, and that'll be it. I don't want, like I said, them to be crazy. I just don't want the aluminum to tarnish again, which it will if it's just bare and exposed. So I'll do it like that, do one more coat, we'll finish up the other one. Okay, so I'm not gonna be putting this old tire back on. So while the wheel's off, I'm going to clean the crap out of those spokes. Again, brass bristle brush and time. Okay, so in order to make it easier to clean the rim, I'm gonna pop this tire off since I'm changing them anyway. I've got brake spoons. You can order these from Amazon or eBay. They're shaped like this. So you can get them in. They get around the lip of the tire and you pull it up and over. So use the 3-spoon method. 1, 2, 3. Now move the middle one over. It's a little tricky if you've never done it before. You're basically just always moving the middle one, and once you get it halfway, you're basically popped off. See, it goes this way to grab the tire and pull it over. And okay. And now we want to pull the other side of the tire over this lip as well. So I'm going to go from this side. Now we're going to go in and pull them over. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, now we're going to pop that over. And you got to be careful of the tube if you're going to save it. If not, don't worry about the tube. I believe I have new tubes, but I'm not sure. Be better with 3 hands, but unless you were born that way, you make do with what you got, which is probably 2. Come on, go down 1 more millimeter. Thank you. I'm going to pull these 2. Pop this out and keep working around the same way. Okay, so 5 minutes later, 1 rim. This is rim tape. This is to keep the spokes from pushing into the tube and popping the tube. So if you don't have any of this, make sure you put some on. You can wrap electrical tape out of around there, an old inner tube. It's just rubber. You can buy rim tape too, but it's It's nothing special, to be honest. It just covers up the spokes, the back of the spokes. So I can clean all this up. I took the tube off. It just had a 12mm bolt nut holding it in. And there's the hole. So I'm just going to clean this up now. Okay, new tire on. The rim is as clean as I'm going to get it. Got the tube back in. Try and align the tube with the white, yellow, or red dot that's going to be on the tire. If there is an arrow, make sure the tire is turning in the correct direction. And again, the valve stem lines up with the little dot. If there is a dot on your tire, there should be. I think we'll make sure to center the tube. I didn't bother putting it back on because they're so easy to put on, the new ones compared to the old ones. Taking an old stiff one off, a new one's so easy comparatively. Make sure there's no tube pinching anywhere, and we're just going to reinflate this. Okay, we're ready to start installing the forks back on again. My dealership could not get the regular rubber boots, the gaiters that cover the top of the fork. They said it was going to take like 5 or 6 weeks. 40 bucks a piece. Amazon, 20 bucks for 2. So start by feeding this side up. Let me grab, where is it, the bolt? I'm going to put the top bolt in just to hold it for now, so it doesn't go anywhere. Come on. Oh, come on, spin on it. Oh, there we go. I didn't have it straight in the flange. So I put the brake locator back on this side because I can't tighten it up on the back side until we know where it is. And then we can tap the little tabs through from the other side. Other fork. Okay, so I'm gonna get the other fork on and then we'll continue from there. Okay, so both fork legs are back on and I'm just putting the handlebar back on, and these ones are not marked forward and back, but there is a dot. See the dot there, right on the top? That little dot goes forward. And we're gonna bolt those back on and be back. Okay, time to put the wheel on. We've re-greased the front bearings that are inside the brake hub. There's nothing to do inside this. I mean, it's exactly as it should be. I pulled out the cap here, put synthetic grease on the bearing in there, and greased inside this bearing. Place the brake hub back in. Where's the axle shaft? The axle shaft has been lightly greased. I'm gonna roll this. That just, what's the easiest way? I guess like that. Again, the shaft's been greased a little bit. Always grease your shaft. Yeah. I doing? That goes the other way. Brain fart. Brain fart. Okay. Oops, daisy. Okay. Are these 14s or 12s? Anybody remember? I don't. I think they were 14s. 14. God, where did I put my 14-mil socket? There it is. This is also marked with an arrow to the front. Arrows always go forward. Always. You ever see an arrow go backwards? Crap. I don't have enough space downward. I think I can pull this fork leg up enough without pulling the bike off the stand. And maybe not. Okay. Out again. Come on. Nothing wants to cooperate today. Okay. Should be able to get that under. There we go. We coming through or not? Yes, we are. Oops. Now, let's go back to arrow pointing forward. Washer, locking washer, and nut. Same on the back. Washer, locking washer, and nut. Now that should be essentially flush. There we go. I'm not torquing those yet, they're just on. Pants are a good place to wipe. Oh, we've got one. Where's the big wash? Is that my 19? I'll tighten that up later and put a cotter pin through the little hole, through the castle nut, through the hole to lock it in place. Now we've got the wheel back on. God, it's amazing there's not a wobble in this tire after that many years. So this little sucker you're supposed to rotate. No, you're not. I thought this brake drum was supposed to rotate. Maybe I have to loosen this first. There's our little locator bolt. Which I believe was a 12. No sense spinning to the end of time. No, that's a 14. Where's my 12? And I'm gonna need an extension to reach through to the other side. Oh, what the heck, let's overdo everything, why not? I think you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. If you can't see it, you're not looking. Straight through there, right? Okay. Now we're going to bend those little finger tabs up with a flathead. I'll show you on this side. I'll just do the other side later on because it's probably going to be a pain to watch. Or not. Okay, I'll do the back one and then we'll start putting these cables back on. Okay, the back tab is on. This is our Speedo cable. Sounds a little crunchy up there, huh? Let's pull her out. Yeah, hello. And lube up the cable since we already have grease out. Just going to run a line of grease over the whole cable. Okay, little end goes back up into the Speedo. Then you're gonna wanna, come on, there you go, are you moving? Now it's gonna be all sticky and hard to pull out. That doesn't sound good, does it? Sticky and hard to pull out. Yikes. Okay, let's clean these cables that are all nasty looking. So where's our wire wheel? Okay, that's brake cable. Actually, they're rather filthy from being over the years, just sitting. I don't like dirty stuff. It can be old, but it doesn't have to be dirty. No need. Okay, so let's get our GIS Phillips. pull the Phillips screw out for the speedo cable. And that cable there's a little pin it's got to go into. There it is. See a little slot in it? It's got a little slit. It's got to go around a little. There we go. A little flat bar that's got to go into that little slot. There we go. Doop, doop, doop. Now let's spin the wheel. Oh, let's move this. Spin the wheel and see if we have some movement. And I believe we do. Yes. Okay, and oh shoot. Dumb. Why did we take off these cables in the first place? I'll give you a second to remember. Because they wouldn't fit the fender through. Let me get the fender finished up and we'll put that on. Okay, back from whence we came. Put the fender, this is as good as the fender is getting. It's got pitting and stuff in it. It's not going to be perfect, but you know, again, it's not meant to be perfect. So anyway, I've put the two cables through the eyelet on the back of the fender. I think you can see that right there. And then the fender just bolts on with four, where did I put them bolts? They're 10 mil. Two on each side. And they simply simply might not be the word, but they screw into there. There's no chance of using a socket on there, so if you have a ratcheting wrench, Bob's your uncle. Don't tighten any until you get them all in. You just have to shimmy and shift it around again. Once you get all four threaded started, then you can tighten it all the way. Try not to get in your way. Okay. Okay, I'll be back in a sec after I've tightened all these. Okay, so now we're going to reattach the brake, and the bolt has to be, I'm going to turn this line upside down and squirt some lubricant into that in a penetrant so it flows down the line while I've got it off the bike. It's just a lot easier. I have to pull it back up through this little thingy-ma-dooey again, up through the little holder. I'll pull it back up through there, and then I'll hold it up in the air and let some dribble down so it can get inside the cable because it's old and rusty. I'll quickly show you what I do to lube cables. See, you've got this adjuster nut on the end. You just put it on a thread or two. So you create a little well, a little pocket there, and then you spray your lube. I'm gonna do this up higher
just down here the camera with you. So you fill it up with lube, and that'll just run down the cable. Okay, back to prime time. Cable in. It's probably gonna drip a little lube out of it, but whatever. Okay. Let me undo that. Screw it. The adjuster. Whoa, you can't see nothing. Undo the adjuster screw at the end so we expose the wire just enough to slide through the slot. This goes in here. Come on, rubber, pop back. There should be plenty of room. There we go. Should just go down into the little groove. If I can't get it, I'll have to. No, that adjuster's loosened all the way. Come on, baby. Wow, that's tight. Tight! I'm gonna loosen it at the top by the handlebar. As much play as I've got. Come on, baby, in you go. So close. Don't fall off. Don't fall off my jack stand. You. When all else fails, needle nose pliers are your friend. Come on into there. Wow. Why can't I pull that any further in? It came out, damn it. Okay. Let me put this screw back on. Bolt, screw, nut. That is not getting any. Wow. Further. There we go. Is that in? No, it's not in. It's got to go down further. Anyway, I'm going to put it down further and be back. Okay, I'm going to tighten these lower nuts. It's 19 foot-pounds. Why do they make watch straps that do this? Why don't they make them so they lock in place, for God's sake? Okay, and the big nut on the other side is 60.
So it's 60, and then you tighten until one of the little holes is showing up. And you never back off to get to the hole. You always go tighter. See that little hole showing up there? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Got about 2 millimeters to go. And there we are. We got to do that little pin right there that holds the cable from coming forward, the brake cable. That's so the brake cable, the little keeper on the end doesn't go further out. That keeps it in place. And we have one last thing to do tonight, and that is to put the upper pinch bolts on the forks. So the two being tightened in a dead camera stand. Okay, so we grab the drill real quick, clean off the contacts for the horn. What the? Ah, damn it. Are you kidding me? After all that, I ran the brake line in front of the fork. It's supposed to go back behind. How did I manage that? Jesus. Oh Lord. I gotta redo the whole thing. Yes, I do. So I either redo the whole thing or I pull the top nuts, the big 25 millimeter top nuts out and slide the whole thing down. Or do I redo the brake? Redoing the brake. Back in a sec. Okay, so before we were so rudely interrupted by me being an idiot, horn. Oh, yeah. Okay. Either side, doesn't matter. Okay, and there's our pinch bolt. And our other pinch bolt. Again, those pinch the top fork legs. What is that? 14 or 12? You remember? Ain't no 14. It's a 12. I'm going to say due to the head size, those are probably about 25 foot-pounds. So that's why I had this on the lowest setting, which is about 25 foot-pounds. And we are done for the day. What do you think these boots should be? Well, they're just going to compress. They're not going to stay. They're not going to move with the... They're not going to move as the front end collapses. No, they're not. They're just going to stay where they are. Huh. I don't know. I think they look fine. Looks kind of like an old Norton or something. Much better than $80 for 2 little pieces of rubber. Anyway, that's it for tonight. I'm going to wheel this sucker in the garage. And if you want to see real hell, why do American companies car companies put chrome casings over all of their lug nuts, like thin chrome layer casings over all their lug nuts, which eventually come off and destroy everything. And then you can't get the lug nut off, and then you've got to resort to extreme measures. You can see the one on the bottom left of your screen has a little hole in it. I drilled a hole in the case and I've sprayed some deep creep into there, hoping to see if I can get them off. And the other thing is people putting them on at fucking 200 foot-pounds of torque. Excuse my swearing, but people are idiots when they do stuff like that and ruin it for everyone. Anyway, yeah, we will be back when we are back. Okay, real quickie tip and trick today for motorcycles with just a side stand. No center stand. How do you change the front tire or the rear tire? How do you get them off the ground? Because they're both on the ground at all times. If you have one of those motorcycle lifts, if you have exhaust that doesn't go down below the engine, you could lift it. If your frame is just down there, yeah, you could lift it with a motorcycle lift. But let's say you don't have one, you just need to really quickly change the tire. Very, very simple. All you need is a jack, floor jack, any type of jack, a bottle jack will work. So you've got your side stand, your kickstand. You'll want about 1.5 to 2 inches of whatever you can stick under here. Okay, with me so far? We're almost done. Now we're going to jack up on the far side at the front of the engine. So the very front that we can get something under that is solid, not the muffler, but the engine. We're going to put the jack under there, jack it up a little bit. Okay, keep your hand on the handlebars just to make sure. Up we go. Front wheel's off the ground. You don't want to go too high, but now that's the quick, easy way to jack up your bike, remove a front tire. I'll do another one on the rear tire in a few minutes, but I just don't have time at the moment. Okay, a little bit ago we just did a how to remove your front tire if you don't have a center stand, just have a side stand. So we're going to do the back tire instruction on the back tire now. So what you do is you still got the same 1.5 to 2 inches of wood underneath the kickstand. And now what we're going to do is come over to the opposite side. And we're going to go as far back as we can on something solid. Remember, you don't want to jack underneath the exhaust. You want something nice and solid. So I'm going under that plate that attaches to the rear brake. I'm going to hold the handlebar just in case. I believe our back tire is off the ground. So what you want is 3 points of contact. You've got the front wheel, you've got here, and you've got the jack stand. Without the jack stand being lifted
wood under it on the other side, you won't be able to get high enough without tipping the bike over. So you want to put something under the bike to bring it almost close to level. And then you jack up, back end off the ground. Nice and easy. Thank you for watching. Okay, doing the rear wheel, half in the rain, half out of the rain. Torque arm on the rear brake. This little arm here. There's a washer and then a rubber bushing, and then a nut 10 millimeter with a little cotter pin in. Take the cotter pin out, 10 millimeter bolt off, slide the torque arm off, then unscrew the bolt, the adjuster bolt on the rear brake, and slide it forward, or slide it backwards, pull the brake out, put the little pin, there's a pin that goes through here, take that out, put it back on the arm, put the nut back on so you don't lose them. And then what do we got, 21 millimeter and a 19 millimeter on the other side to loosen the axle nut, and 10 millimeter for the adjuster. Back these all the way out, and then we're just going to pull the axle shaft. We've got it jacked up the way I showed on the previous video, jacking up the back of a motorcycle. And I think we're ready to go. So we'll just push it forward, slide the chain off, and then pull the entire wheel off once the axle nut's out. Okay, once you pull your rear axle out, on the inner part of both axles, so between the swing arm and the drum, there is going to be a spacer. On the left side, it's going to be the smaller spacer. On the right side, it is going to be, where is it? The slightly longer spacer. Make sure just to put those back on your axle in the right orientation so you remember where they went. And now we're just going to slide this, everything's unhooked. We're just going to roll the wheel forward and unhook the chain, and then I'm just going to replace the tire, same as I did in the last one. Clean up that rim, which is going to take a while. Okay, so the rear wheel is about as done as it can get, and about as clean and as de-rusted as it can get. Chain, obviously, on the left side. Lift these up out of the way. I kind of tilt it in. Okay, and I'm going to put the chain around the sprocket. All a bit fiddly, but you can do it. If you make sure your bike is in neutral, then it's easier to turn the chain and the sprocket to get the chain on. There we go. Okay, so gotta get our adjusters. Where's that one? These are the exact same front and back, I believe. Yeah. Front, back, left, right, up, down. Exact same. Or no, not up, down. So a little notch. Oh no, there's the notch on the bottom too. So they're whichever way you want. So first thing we're gonna do, lubricate this axle. Some synthetic grease, doesn't need a ton. Now this has got to go through the swing arm. Axle goes in, then a small bearing, or bushing, sorry, goes on the end. All fiddly.
help that I have grease all over my hands. Okay, get in there. I don't know if it'll be easier to pop this into the hub first, so let's do that. Just kind of slots into the hub. There we go. Yeah, it goes in about a centimeter, so it's a little easier. Okay. Now I want to grab my brake hub. I did clean this out, but I guess it dried and rusted a little bit. That's just powdered rust, it's nothing. Move these down out of the way. Slip my brake hub on. It will locate itself once everything's done, so don't worry which direction it's in. Now we need put a little more grease in this bushing. So as this comes out, the axle comes out, it's going to go through the bushing and then through this and the swing arm all at the same time. So octopus hands required. Let's get something to put these on so they don't get dirty. Okay. Always hold the brake hub as you're tapping the axle through, because it will just push it out. They like to do that. I might need a hammer to tap that. Okay, just as it starts to pop through, hopefully you can see that. Let me look through the camera and see if you can see that. I think you can see that. Let's zoom in a little bit. I think you can see that. So it's just popped out the tiniest little bit. I'm going to try and slip the bushing over if I can. Just not quite enough room. I've got to tap it back out a little bit. Come on, bushing. You can do it. There we go. Bushing. Okay, now we're going to tap the axle. So it's going through the bushing, but all the way through. Just getting there. Now my adjuster. And I'm going to lower the bike a tiny little bit so it'll push down on the rear wheel. So I've got to get the axle to go through here and then through this notched slot on the swing arm. Again, it's not impossible, it's just fiddly as hell. Okay. I think that's a tiny bit. And now try and tap from this side. Get it to go through the whole mess all at once. on there. Oh, I can feel it coming through. Bada boom. Now before you tighten anything or do anything, let's just put this on there so it doesn't leave us. Get the adjusters on both sides so they're straight back. And then, loosely tighten them back to where they were. We're going to worry about chain adjustment later on. It's not what we're worried about at the moment. And that is it for the rear wheel. And then torquing the axle nut to the proper torque and putting a cotter pin in. But we're not going to do that until we've finished adjusting the chain, which we're not going to do at the moment. I can take this jack out. And we have new tire and mostly finished rear end. I'm just going to bolt the brake back on. So this goes through this little notch there. A little arm through the hole. Come on. Come on. Okay. And then your adjuster nut, which we don't need to adjust now. We just need to have it on there so it doesn't go anywhere. And I'll take this 10 mil off the bottom. Come on. It's the torque arm, keeps the brake from moving back and forth. Of course it's gonna rain on me. Remember, in the end of this, there is a tiny cotter pin once we've tightened that up, which we're not really going to do right now. Actually, there's no reason not to. I believe it's a 12 mil, or is it a 10? This is a 12, I think. I guess it's a 12. And a teeny tiny cotter pin in that to hold it. So, yeah, we're almost there. Carb kit, that's big. The big thing to do right now is pull those carbs off and rebuild the carbs. Everything else is ready to go. And the bike is about as 1978 clean as it's gonna get. Again, I think I've said a million times before, the restoration was not the deal here. And if you look at this old tire, I'm assuming it's original. What is it? An IRC Grand High Speed GS11AW. Made by who? No idea. IRC, I guess. Yeah, IRC, I guess, is the company. But this is a 50-year-old tire. 50-year-old rubber is so much better than new rubber. No new rubber tire will ever make it to 50 years without splitting into chunks. It just won't happen. But that's the benefit of real rubber. Now, just as a quick note, if you notice on car tires, they'll have a date code stamped into them, meaning they're past their due date.
Old tires didn't have one of those. You were past your due date when your tread was gone, and then you had them retreaded because the rubber didn't die because it was rubber. Anyway, might actually be getting sunlight back, which means I might be able to finish some more stuff. Anyway, if I do, I will film it. Okay, so I just did adjust the chain. Sorry about that. The back adjuster, there's the little notch on the top. There's a little chrome notch, and then there's a bunch of little hash marks, like a ruler on the swing arm. And you want to match the notch to one of the hash marks on the swing arm, and then you want to get them the same on the other side. So when you tighten the other side, the opposite of the chain side gets looser. When you tighten the chain side, obviously the chain side gets tighter and that one gets looser. It's kind of a dance back and forth until you get them even. And mine evened out at just over 2 notches, like 2 1/4 each side. And then this is the bolt you adjust it in and out with. And then this one, just always spin this one out so it's not interfering. And then you adjust in and out with this bolt, and then grab this bolt with one 10mm wrench and take this one and tighten it so it will lock it in place. And then you torque your rear axle bolt, which is 70 foot-pounds, and then put the cotter pin in. And I've also put the cotter pin in the little brake torque arm at the bottom. I just figured while I was here, I might as well get it out of the way. It's not something extreme that anyone really wants to watch, but I explained it anyway. Like I said, the only thing really left on this bike is the carburetor, pulling the carb off and getting that carb drip gone, and then getting the carbs adjusted. Everything else works. I think we've gotten rid of all the rust. We've polished everything off with brass, and we've gotten rid of all the rust that we can. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Anyway, we will be back. Oh, and I haven't permanently mounted the seat, of course, and I haven't polished and cleaned it. But yeah, the only thing I'm really pissed off about is this engine being so aluminum rusted, if you can say, like corroded, aluminum corrosion on it, and that's just from mouse piss. Excuse the expression, but mouse pee. It's mouse pee, and that's what it does. It corrodes aluminum and metal, but mostly does that kind of stuff to aluminum. Metal, it just rusts. Anyway, we'll probably be back tomorrow because it looks like it's going to rain again. Okay, quick tip today for carburetor float bowls. You adjust your float and you're still getting the leak coming from the overflow. Where the hell is it coming from? You keep adjusting, you adjust it more and more. Nothing seems to help. You've probably got a leaky overflow needle. I'm taking the carb bowl and I'm filling it full of water. And now I'm going to take an air hose. You can just put the rubber overflow tube over your lips and blow, but you're going to see. You see the bottom? It's definitely leaking there. So you can replace it, solder it, all kinds of things you can do, but especially on a bike that's been sitting for years and years and years, they're sitting in gas, it eventually rots the brass. So I'm just going to sand this down and try and solder that. You could use a JB welder too if you have one that an epoxy that is fuel resistant. You could use that as well.